A bit muffled, so I'll have to project and be very clear and enunciate.
I was gonna say.
Go for it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first meeting for the International Association of Business Communicators, so the IABC. I'm going to do my best to enunciate and to project my voice, since I'm a little far away from over here, or from where I think where the camera is. But today, what are we going to be doing? We're going to be introducing the IABC, and we have a full agenda. So my name is Jennifer Magus, and I'm introducing Professor Andrea Bowden.
Hello. Didn't want to be introduced, but it happened. Let's see. So first off, did you want to explain his say cheese part?
Well, what we're going to do is, first off, what I like to do is always take a photo. So for my online Zoom peeps, if everyone on Zoom, if you could all smile.
Wait, I've got to do this.
So we just have to do our gallery view. So
Yes.
I took a quick photo of all of you, and I think we'll see how it comes out with my camera. But I like to do it on Zoom. Haven't you been to a lot of Zoom events where they'll take photos and everyone's like with their mouths open or different things? So it's always nice. Hello, my Zoom friends. It's great to see you. Oh, I see a lot of faces.
I don't know if we can fit everybody on here at
We're going
once.
to see what we can do. We may have to do 2 screenshots. There are speakers. Hello, hello. What we'd love to do is I'm going to count off and I'll say 1, 2, 3, cheese. And then all of our Zoom friends will smile so we can take a screenshot. That's what we're looking to do. So then we can use it for purposes later of sharing your wonderful participation. So we'll see. Are we able to get most everyone on there? It's hard to do sometimes. Wow.
Yeah. So
If you could turn on your cameras, even just for a moment, so that we can see you.
talking to you, Anthony.
We're trying. All right, so what we will do right now is, if everyone, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, cheese, smile, and we'll do our first set of photos, and then we'll do our second. So let's start out, and we'll do our first set. So 1, 2, 3, cheese, everybody smile, big smile. Oh, those are great, thank you, thank you. Thank you, guys. And our next set, so we'll move to the next set.
I see.
There we go. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to say it again. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Perfect.
Okay.
We really appreciate your participation.
Much enthusiasm.
Felt it. A big smile. All right, so the class already took photos of it. I'll take pictures again in the classroom momentarily. One of the things we also like to do is throughout the presentation, we have a link that we have right here, and I'll let Dr. Bowden talk about that for a second since she created the link.
Okay, just 1 second. I'm going back to PowerPoint.
We're coming back. So as we do that, we also have an opportunity throughout the presentation. If you'd like to record and help us with our social media, we greatly appreciate it. So if you want to take some quick little video snippets, we appreciate that as well. And we have an opportunity where you can upload it to bit.ly/IABC-kickoff. And that's what you can do. So I appreciate it. If you could take some photos, upload it. If you have a problem uploading it, just let us know at the email address at the end of the presentation. So that's our quick little, as communicators, we like to communicate. And one of the things is we're working on our social media. So if you haven't already seen, we set up a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And what are we looking to do? We're looking to build our social media presence as part of the first student Texas Tech chapter. So that's what we're looking to do today. And hi, come on in. You know what? Sign in.
Awesome.
And you get an opportunity. And my Zoom peeps, you have an opportunity for this as well. For a Amazon gift card. If you are attending on Zoom, you also have an opportunity, and at the end of the presentation today, what we will do is we'll have you quickly do a random number generator, and then we'll choose from there as well.
I don't.
If we could, it sounds like.
Yeah.
We're actually gonna work on that. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't before, but you know. Good rehearsals mean bad shows.
So now that we're ready to get going, I want to say welcome again. You are attending our first meeting of the IABC. The goal is to build our first student chapter. And that's a very exciting thing. It's our first opportunity to do this, and you are the first students to get involved. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking all about what the IABC is, what the benefits of membership are, and we have 3 wonderful speakers that we're going to be introducing shortly. So as we move to the next slide, we'll move along.
Let's see. Well, did we want to? Did you want to introduce?
We'll quickly introduce ourselves. Normally, we would also have Dr. Kelly Cargile-Cook, who is the chair of the Professional Communication Department. Some of you know her, just nod. We all like her very much. Unfortunately, she's not feeling well this evening. So we'll all just say hi, Kelly, in case she's attending online. We miss you. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Kelly.
Do it
We hope you
again.
feel better.
Hi, Kelly.
We hope you feel better. We hope you feel better. So with her blessing, we are, talking a little bit on her behalf. We also have another co-leader who will be helping us with the IABC, and we're going to play her quick. She's attending a conference, and I'll let her explain that. But a quick little video snippet to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My
I don't know what
name is Lena Chudnovsky.
Doing it again. We'll try this one more.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lena Chudnovska. I'm lecturer in the Professional Communication Department. I teach business and professional communication courses. I have 10 years of industry experience in global companies and more than 10 years of teaching experience of in-person and online university level courses. Thank you for joining us for the International Association of Business Communication Kickoff meeting. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend this meeting because I will present and attend an annual convention of Association for Business Communication. Hope to see everyone next time. Bye.
I'm pretty sure I'm next, so I'll introduce myself to keep moving the presentation along. I'm Professor Jennifer Lee Magus. I'm a new professor at Texas Tech. I'm an assistant professor of practice. I am currently teaching pcom 3373 business communication. I've got a couple of my students in here. In addition to that, I have been a business communicator in many, many different industries and positions, and everything from working as the employee relations director of a large international commodities trading firm. I also like to call myself a recovering attorney. That's a whole long story behind that. If you're one of my students, you know the story behind that. In addition to that, I have my own PR agency. So if you're looking for an internship, come my way. That's the quick overview of who I am, and I will turn off.
Hey, everyone. I'm Dr. Andrea Bowden, and I am a lecturer here in the Department of Professional Communication. It's wonderful to see you all here tonight. I know some of you from class, so that's great to see you as well. My background is a little bit different. I started off doing web design, graphic design, and membership communications for a trade association that run a graphic design firm. And for some reason, I got into teaching a while ago, and I've been doing it for, I don't want to say, But anyway, I'm really glad that you all came tonight, and let's get on with the show. That's great. So shall we talk about what IABC is? I guess I'm gonna. So what is IABC? And it's very hard to encapsulate it in just a few words. Our speakers are gonna let you know all that IABC can offer and provide, but it is a global organization, and it is the purpose of which is to promote professional communication, ethical practices, all of those things that go beyond just communicating and make it a distinct, professional, of quality. Additionally, the organization is about connection, connecting with each other, connecting across the globe, learning from each other. Learning is actually part of that connection process. And IABC has fantastic opportunities for growing and learning as a communicator. Additionally, this is a diverse organization. And when we say diverse, we don't only mean people from around the country and around the globe, but we're talking about in all sorts, representing all sorts of different industries and areas of interest. Because as you know, communication doesn't just happen in one space. It happens everywhere, and everywhere people are communicating, we are important and we are needed. And of course, the organization aims to provide insights into best practices, insights into ways that we can do our work better, and results. So it's not just about spouting theory, but it's about what you can do once you are armed with that knowledge. And let's meet our panel. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of a lag.
All right. First, I'd like to introduce, and we will shoot to our speakers momentarily, and we'll put them on the screen. But we have Bonnie Tabor, who's the immediate past chair of IABC and the president of Reputation Lighthouse. Bonnie has an extraordinary background with a focus, and I shouldn't even say the focus. She does so many different things, but her expertise is also crisis communications, which is one of my favorite things to talk about in my classes. So welcome, Bonnie. We will see you momentarily on the screen. We have a beautiful, wonderful headshot of you here. Can we give a round of applause for Bonnie here?
Next, we have Matt Tigwell. He is a director on IABC's international board. And, you know, just in his day job, he is the assistant dean for graduate and professional studies at the School of Journalism and Mass Communications at the University of Kansas. And would you like to bring anything more into that? Because I got winded just saying it's time.
Matt does a lot more than what is, if you can see, with his two titles. So we'll be hearing from him shortly. So let's give him a round of applause as well. And last but not least, we have Patrick Armstrong, who is the IABC director for New South Wales. He's also a lecturer at the University of New South Wales Business School in Sydney, Australia. And he also has a day job, which he will talk about, that is pretty intensive. It includes also a lot of professional communication and also financial services, which he'll talk about as well. So very, again, last but not least, let's welcome Patrick and give him a round of applause.
Would you like to? You have some questions? Once again, we'd like to thank our speakers, and they should pop up on screen as soon as they start.
As soon as they start talking. Okay. So what we'd like to do at this point is we're going to do an IABC panel with our speakers who have taken the time out of their busy schedules to talk a little bit about the IABC, talk a little bit about the benefits to membership. But first, what I'd like them to do, and we have our beautiful, wonderful panel, is to ask them some specific questions. And I'm going to start with Bonnie, since we introduced Bonnie first. Bonnie, would you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and what your career path was, and what made you join IABC as part of this career path?
Hi, everybody. Very nice to be here today, even remotely. I joined IABC as a student, like you. I just have been involved with IABC my entire career. And it has given me so much from a networking perspective, and I say networking very loosely because it's given me connections that have helped me grow my organization and my professional path. I started out in collegiate athletics. How many people like sports? So I started out at the University of North Carolina as a student, and then my first job was in college athletics. And I did crisis, not even knowing what crisis was, fresh out of college. And all kinds of things went on, with college athletes and ways that we had to talk about the stories around them. And one of the things that really hit me at the time is we seem to always be in the sports pages is great, but anytime an athlete or the university got in trouble, then we ended up being in the business section, or we were on the front page of the newspaper, or we led on the news. Social media wasn't really around at that point, so we were really when crisis came, then we moved out of the sports pages. And so I was always very interested in how could we be in the business section, how could we be on the front page when it wasn't about crisis, when we were telling great stories that were happening at our university, the good work our athletes were doing, the good work our coaches were doing, the money that was raised in athletics, how it was used at the university. There were just so many stories. So I kind of got this idea that you could build a reputation and tell by using your communications channels and telling positive stories when you weren't in crisis. And that built equity so that when you got into crisis. So that was kind of very foundational for me. And I went on to work for Special Olympics Texas for several years. At the time, it was the largest Special Olympics program in the world. And we helped lead Special Olympics in China and Africa. And then I started my own business 18 years ago. And we really work on helping companies create, protect, and accelerate their brands. Because it's really more than crisis management. It's about how do you create this reputation that you want to have, and how do you build equity so that when you do have crisis, you can weather the storm. I call it insulating your brand. That's a little bit about me. And okay, so I'm going to digress a little bit. I have two sons that go to tech, so I'm a little biased here. Wreck 'em.
We love that. Just a quick, to add on to that. How did you join IABC? You mentioned as a student, but what has your role been more recently with the IABC?
So I joined as a student, and then just was a member for a lot of years, and got involved in the Austin chapter. After I moved to Texas, I eventually became the chair of the Austin chapter. Then I got involved at the region level, and the southern region goes all the way from, it's a really weird southern region, because the southern region goes all the way from Colorado and Arizona to Barbados and the Caribbean. So we're an international region. So I became the chair of the Southern region. And then I started volunteering at an international level. I worked on the brand of IABC. I was on the finance committee. I worked on the international conference, and I became on the board of directors. And so I spent a year on the board of directors, and then I did a 3-year track as the chair. So you do vice chair, chair, and past chair. And I've just finished that, and I'm now on the Global Alliance Board of Directors. And the Global Alliance is the federation of all communications and PR organizations around the world, as well as universities. And there's 78 organizations that are part of that, and I am a representative of IABC on the Global Alliance Board. So I kind of eat, drink, and sleep IABC.
That's a lot. And the 2 sons on top of that in the business, so very, very busy. We have more we're going to ask you on that, so thank you very much. We appreciate that. We're going to turn the floor over to Matt, who is the, as I mentioned before, professor at the University of Kansas and current IABC International Board Director. Matt, could you tell us a little bit, very similar to Bonnie, a little bit about your background, what your career path was, and what your involvement is with the IABC?
Yeah, greetings. Thank you very much. And thanks for asking me. Thanks for allowing me to be here. What a great honor to be here on the very first meeting of a student chapter. That's really cool. So, and greetings from University of Kansas, right? I know we compete on the athletic field, but it's kind of nice. And you find this all the time when you get in the professional world, that whether you're a Longhorn or a Raider or a Jayhawk or whatever it might be, you end up collaborating and working together, which is kind of cool. But I'll go guns up tonight. So happy to do it. Yeah, so gosh, I had a pretty kind of, I would say, normal track. I graduated from as you mentioned, a journalism and mass communication school, like many of you are enrolled in, and went off to have a fairly lengthy career in what we would think of as corporate communications, mostly. I also did some agency work, but worked in the pharmaceutical industry, worked for a large hospital system, really, and again, a couple of agency stops along the way. And after that period of 25 years or so, I went in then to academia. So I came into sort of academia late in life, but now I really enjoy working with students, and I work at both the undergraduate and mostly the graduate level, but certainly work with undergraduates as well. So my IABC story is kind of interesting. I was envious of Bonnie's story because my university had a student chapter and I chose not to join, and that was a mistake. Because what happens is that when I then graduated and went out at 22 years old into my career, when you're in college, a lot of the networking opportunities are sort of easy for you, right? They're right there. The school that you're in provides them, things like that. When you get out on your own, they talk about sort of the cold, hard world. You can feel very lonely if you don't have a community. And so I really wish that I would have had that experience as a student member of a professional communications group, because I think that would have helped me, frankly, to more quickly establish my network in the profession, because I kind of had to do that on my own through contacts I had, and sort of was taking the long way around. So I think that I'm very obviously of the mind that organizations like IABC for students are very, very beneficial. And then, of course, when you do go off and launch your professional career, you're just that much further ahead, because you kind of have not only a built-in network, but you also have lots of resources, right? Because one of the things IABC and a lot of professional organizations do is they provide a lot of ongoing professional development. So, our learning doesn't stop when we get our diploma. In fact, in a field like marketing, I would tell you that it really sort of only just beginning, because that's how quick our industry has changed, right? There's been more change in marketing in the last 25 years than there probably was in the previous 75. So, with social media and all these platforms. So you really need to keep yourself sharp. And so IABC and professional organizations like it are really good ways to do that. And so to start while you're a student, move into your professional career with a good background in an organization like IABC makes a lot of sense. And I think just to maybe a little bit more about my current role then with IABC is that I'm on our, International Executive Board, which is basically the board of directors to the organization. This is my second term on that board. And so I get a chance to interact with professionals really around the world. And by the way, I would just, maybe I'll finish by saying one of the ways that IABC is different than from some other organizations that you may have heard of, and there are some great ones out there, PRSA and others, is that IABC is truly international. And I know we've talked about that before, but so the ability to really understand the differences and nuances, because not everybody does communications like we do in the US and like we learn about doing in the US, right? There are cultural differences, there are certainly differences in things like regulations and governmental and all kinds of other stuff. And so it's sort of, I think it really benefits us all to have more of that global view. And IABC truly does give you that more so than for instance, some of the other organizations out there. So anyway, hopefully that helped.
That was great. We talked about this earlier in my class today. We were talking about research, and we were talking about, I teach pcom 3373, which is business communication. And my students and I were talking about research, and just researching today that if you're looking at cultural, if you're going to travel abroad in terms of business, you need to understand how different China is, how different Japan is, and even just sitting down to dinner. So that was perfect. I have a couple of my students in here today who will probably nod their heads about this in class today. So thank you for bringing that up. That's perfect.
Well, and selfishly, I was trying to set up my good friend Patrick here since he's from Australia. So I hope I did that well for you, Patrick.
So last but not least, he's saying these phenomenal Sydney accents. So
Yes.
last but not least, we're going to ask you the same question. If you could tell us a little bit about your background, about your career path, and how you found your way to IABC.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for everyone for inviting me along today. It's a great honor to be here. And as I said, I'm from Sydney, Australia. Similar to Matt, I started off my early career studying communications degree. Then spent my early career working in sort of film, TV, journalism. I call it my poor but happy days. It was good fun, but it wasn't sustainable in the long term. Particularly our film industry in Australia is nothing like the US. So I moved myself then into more corporate communications roles, where I've spent the last sort of 20 years, I guess. Working in lots of different industries. And one of the things I really love about communication professionals is that we have really great transferable skills. So I've managed to work across financial services, utilities, consultancy, IT, government, engineering, so many different things over the years in lots of different roles. Tertiary education, I worked at the University of New South Wales before I became an academic, actually on staff as the head of internal communication there as well. Touching on Bonnie's point, lots of crisis communications in a university environment. So some really interesting experiences there as well. So I've had a really interesting, diverse career in lots of different places: internal comms, external comms, consultancy, many, many things. And I really love it. I love the creative side of it. I love the strategic side of it. Right now, I do work in a bank, like you say, like working in a major risk program, where our banks a couple of years ago got fined for practices that were enabling money laundering and all sorts of things like that. So I'm working on a big risk program that we have to kind of fix the way the bank is in terms of their governance and whatnot. So it's a very big job leading the communication for that. But in terms of my IABC journey, I've been a member on and off for about 20 years, but really the last 5 years I became really actively involved, and I joined the IABC in my local chapter as a board director. And honestly, it's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my career. The opportunities that have come from that have been extraordinary. I've been to the US twice. I went to what they call Leadership Institute. So I was actually in Austin, Texas, actually a couple of years ago. It was my last overseas trip before the pandemic. And also been to California, been to world conferences in Vancouver and also in Montreal. I mean, just absolutely extraordinary experiences that I've had through my membership of IABC. Also, just at a local level, be able to do great events with our people in Sydney, amazing networking. It's just given me so much. And that's some advice that someone actually gave to me when I very first joined the board. They said, you get out of IABC what you put into it. And I could not tell you, the words have never been more true to me. It's absolutely true. If you give to this organization, you get back. Again, I volunteered. That's where I first met Matt. I also worked on the IABC Academy. So I was the chair of a committee there looking after the academic side of the IABC. So I've got involved in that as well. And I've also done the certification program. We might sort of touch that a little bit later on as well. But when I was in California, I sat the Strategic Communication Management Professional exam. So through the IABC, it's an affiliated thing with the GCCC, the Global Communications Council, to get certification as a communication professional. And I think, again, something I would highly recommend to everybody in this room to look at that, because it really adds to your own credibility and your own personal brand, but also the credibility of our profession. So something to really look at there as well. So it's an extraordinary organization, touching on some of the things that Matt and Bonnie have said. It is global, like I said, coming from Australia, having those opportunities to work in North America, to be on global committees with people from, from Barbados and the States and England and Australia. It was a great, we're working across time zones, things like that. So I think you've done a really great thing joining as a student. I think that's a really great thing to do. And again, like Matt, I got bitten by the academic bug about 5 years ago, and I now teach as well. So I teach communication with young people like yourselves, and I absolutely love it. So hopefully that's given you a bit of insight into my journey as well.
Thank you, thank you. That covered a lot of ground, which will lead us into our next question. And I'll continue, so I'll just move. And I think the best thing to do is, since as I ask this question, I know that Patrick, you just answered this question a little bit, because my next one is what keeps you involved with the IABC, and you mentioned the certification, which, what was it, strategic communication?
Yep. So there's the strategic communication management professional. That's for the more people like myself in the later part of my career. There's also the CMP as well, the communications management professional. So that's a sort of a early mid-career type of certification. It's a little bit different, but yeah. Which
is really helpful. So what I'll do is I will come back to you momentarily, and I'll bounce back to Bonnie. Bonnie, if you could answer, Patrick answered this a little bit in terms of the certification, in terms of the networking. What else keeps you involved in the IABC?
Well, that's changed over the years. Now to me, I have a huge passion for advocating for the profession. So, like being here tonight and talking to you about it, it's really important to me that we are advocating for new students to come into the program, and really talking about what's here, as well as the other side of executives of how do you use us. One of the things, and Patrick talked about it, one of the things I just love about IABC is setting the global standard for communication professionals. And that's really important, because it's the difference from being a communicator to being a communication professional. So I'd really like for you guys not to call yourselves communicators, because engineers are communicators, lawyers are communicators. Everybody at your school is learning to be a communicator, and they will need to be good communicators to be successful within their organization. A communication professional is different. And the thing that IABC has done, which I just love, and the SCMP focuses around this. There's also the CMP. There's also the career roadmap, which shows you what you need to do from being foundational, which is early career, to being a generalist, to being a strategic advisor, to being a business leader. And it's all focused around these standards, and that's around ethics, consistency, context, analysis, strategy, and engagement. And that's really the heart of being a communication professional. And IABC is doing everything around those global standards. And so that's really important to set us up as being communication professionals. The other thing is our profession is changing every day. To say that we need to be lifelong learners is an understatement. We need to be daily learners. And when we're talking about transformation of companies and organizations, we're going into new worlds. We're making decisions, and we as communication professionals are being asked to lead at a level we've never been asked to lead before. And when you are a part of IABC, you have this global network to talk to say, how are you doing this? To share best practices. I remember conversations within IABC when we were first, trying to deal with COVID. Patrick said he was in Austin. We had Leadership Institute in Austin in the end of February, and I was supposed to go to Australia and New Zealand and do some speaking as the incoming chair of IBC, and they kept calling me and they said, I think if you come over here, you're never going to leave, because we're going to shut off the country. And well, hindsight is I probably should have gone, right? That would have been a pretty good place to have weathered the storm. But then we started to think, well, we're shutting everything down. We're sending our employees home. We're in hybrid environments. How are we communicating? How are we communicating the disease? How are we communicating, protecting ourselves from it? There's new rules. The data is not there. The science is not there. And I remember conversations where we were talking to people from Vancouver, Canada, people in the UK, people in Australia that were at different places in the pandemic. When Australia brought people back to work, they were very early in bringing people back to work versus where we were in the US. We weren't even thinking about bringing people back to work. So we could learn from them, and then later on there were things they could learn from us. But only IABC gave us that opportunity to have a platform to be able to say, Patrick, what are you guys doing? How are you bringing people back to the bank? How are you communicating this? What are the pitfalls you're finding? And I think that going where we're going forward, with the changes that are happening in the world, that collaboration, an opportunity to learn from each other and willingness to learn from each other is something that is just invaluable. And IABC brings that to the table.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And I agree with you. Australia would not have been a bad place to be, right? During the pandemic. Absolutely. I'm going to ask one last question before we move over to our Q&A. So Matt, I'm going to bring it back to you. And you mentioned a little bit earlier how you wish you had joined the IABC. And I'd like to know is if a student came to you and said, in your view, what are the professional benefits to joining the IABC? What would you say?
Oh my gosh. Well, sorry. Yeah, I'm muted. We've talked about so many of them already, certainly. I mean, I think that it's the old adage, dig your well before you're thirsty. And so again, talking about networking, as I mentioned earlier, we've all heard how important networking is once we move out into the profession. So what better time to start than when you're a student? And not only that, but to be able to carry that membership with you, right? So in the case of you're starting as an IBC student member, then there'll be a natural progression into regular membership, and it's just going to make things easier. So, I would say that, certainly networking, but using IABC as the vehicle to get there is just a perfect pathway. And I really wish I would have done it as a student, no question about it. And then, I think the other thing and Bonnie alluded to a new tool that I think, I say new, we've had it for a couple of years now, but what we call the career roadmap, right? So when you're early in your career, it can be hard to visualize how you're going to progress through your career, right? Because you just don't have a lot of experience, and you're seeing people around you who are more experienced, and I really like what Jane does or John does. I'd really like to be in that position. How do I get there, right? And so one of the things IABC has done through the career roadmap is they've developed a tool that help members to kind of basically see through a series of questions. It's sort of like almost like a self-test to see where you are in that progression, so that you don't feel as bankrupt in terms of information on how to progress. So the career roadmap is a great tool. And in fact, I absolutely, even for college students who maybe aren't yet in their first career role, to go ahead and take a look at that tool, because I think it really kind of does, again, it helps you understand how the ladder moves, right? And we're all very interested in that when we get into our career. How can you get promoted? What's the next step for you? It's amazing how quick that becomes important to you after graduation and you've been in your first role. So that ability to kind of test yourself, understand where you are amongst your peers, I think organizations like IABC really help you to do that, certainly when you get off on the professional side. And oh my gosh, what else? Self-evaluation, networking. I think that the ability to have development tools available to you on demand. A lot of our IABC resources are for members are available to you. You don't have to go to necessarily a seminar to get a particular skill or learn more about a particular topic. We have a lot of that content on demand for members, and so that's very helpful as well. Because again, we may not all be working for big companies that have learning and development departments that are going to provide us with a lot of this. We're going to be looking for it on our own, and when you're involved with an organization like IABC, they can provide that to you, on an ongoing basis on sort of an on-demand way. So yeah, just a lot of benefits, a lot of benefits, and really starting early, I think would be my key message there.
Which is really, really helpful having all that, because I know when I graduated too, I had no idea and I didn't know who to go to for questions.
No.
So I have a question I want to ask, but I want to turn it over to the students. And what questions do you have? And I'm going to walk forward a little bit because it looks like our light went off. You guys are in darkness there. You have mood lighting back there. Does anybody have any questions you'd like to ask our speakers? I don't think they're going back on, and I'm waving my arms like a crazy person. So I'm trying. Does anyone have any specific questions you'd like to ask the speakers? You can think about it for a second.
Yeah, I have a question. So as a person who likes to read all the good reviews and bad reviews before I buy something, what is something that you guys don't like about IABC or that you wish that would change? Something small, something big, just something.
Were you all able to hear that question?
Well, I spent 3 years looking at that. so I could probably spend all day looking at that with you. I think one of the challenges that IABC has is that we are global. Because when it comes time to trying to manage an organization that is global, it's very difficult. And we're not all the same. Our cultures are different, the way we interact, the things that we focus on. So, that becomes a challenge, but it's also one of our differentiators. So, understanding the complexities of the organization is really important. The other thing that I think is if I could really change something about IABC, it would be that if you join, you get involved, and that we do a better job of getting you involved immediately. Because if we can sit here and tell you about the career assessment, we can tell you about the certification, we can tell you that if you meet Patrick is a wealth of information and is willing to give it to you, right? He's willing to share his wealth of information with you. That if you want to meet other students around the world, that you can join the student shared interest group and see what other students around the world are doing. We can tell you about that all day. But if you don't take advantage of it, then you lose the opportunity to reap the benefits. And so I would say the biggest challenge we have is we don't get people involved immediately. And that's one of the things we've looked at both at the local level and at the international level, is if we get you involved, you're a lifer. You're here forever because you meet the people that become your peers and become your guides. So I would say that just understanding the complexity of the organization as a manager is really important, but as kind of a real challenge, it's to get people involved, because if you get involved, you stick.
Any other questions? That was a great question. We're digging for the dirt first, aren't we? Yes. All right, I have a question. What is it that IABC student chapters do? What do you, that was one of the questions I had earlier today in my classroom. What do we expect to do going forward? What do you find that student chapters do?
I can talk a little bit about, because I'm familiar with a couple of student chapters. A lot of them will do a lot of their programming will be focused around things like career development, career advancement, or I should say, just really launching careers. So things like, a chapter that I'm aware of, they will do fairly regular things like resume workshops, reviews. They'll do the leadership of the local chapter did a road show where they went around to different student chapters and talked about just, career. These were professional members talking about their own career journey. So they hosted events, sort of like we're doing tonight, hosted fairly regular events like that. Anything to really get students, more aware of what the profession is like, so that they're, not as surprised, and their path, if you will be easier when they move post graduation. So really, any topic along those lines, I think, works really well, for a student chapter, and students are obviously interested in that.
Do student chapters ever take on communication clients and work on a communication plan, or do they ever do things, hands-on activities like that?
Yeah, that's interesting you mentioned that. I've not heard of a student chapter that's done that, but I will tell you that IABC has those kinds of activities fairly regularly. So the home chapter that I'm with does what they call gift of communications, where they'll choose 3 nonprofits, and then various members will gather on an evening for a 3 or 4 hour session to help those nonprofit organizations with
That's
just.
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Local nonprofit.
There's absolutely no reason.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no reason why a student chapter couldn't do something very similar.
Doesn't that sound I think that sounds interesting. You'd have great work product that you can then use on job interviews. Plus, it opens us up to the community as well. And then again, we can also reach out and network with our other IABC chapters, which actually this is another question I have. If I'm a student that I just graduated, I'm in my first job, and it's my first time writing a proposal or even a response to an RFP, can I go on the website and find someone that can help me, give me a sample or walk me through how to do it for the first time if I don't know how to do it?
I would just jump in and say yes. The IABC hub, which is, if you're a member, it's a forum, and I'll tell you right now, you're not going to like it. It's clunky, and it's, you're used to all your social tools of Snapchat and LinkedIn and all of these things that are much more, it's not like those. Okay. So I'm just going to tell you that first. However, the value of it is the brain trust behind it. So you merely need to say, I just graduated, I'm doing my very first proposal. Anybody have some best practices? And probably within 24 hours, you'll have people telling you how to write it. You'll have samples. You'll have someone offering for you to talk to them. Those kinds of things. And as I went back to say about what we were doing during COVID, the amount of IP that was shared through the hub, intellectual property that was shared through the hub, was just amazing. You need, as I said, to get involved, you need only ask.
That is fantastic. So that's worth it just alone. I can tell you, as someone, even crisis communication, and I had multiple different clients, and I thought, oh geez, it was just so hard. It would have been great to see what other communicators were doing, or professional communicators were doing at the same time. So thinking of that, how great would that be? Because there's going to be a lot of things you don't know, and there will be a lot of things you do know, but wouldn't it be great to see lots of samples? That's really cool. I love that. I love that. Do we have any other questions? Yes.
What's the time commitment look like?
So what's the time commitment look like as a student member joining a chapter?
That depends on the chapter, I would say. As boards, and Patrick, you want to talk about being on a board and kind of what that time commitment is?
Yeah. So again, back to that point around, there is a commitment involved, obviously, and it's you put aside a couple of hours a week, I would think, as a general rule. But it sort of ebbs and flows, and I think one of the really big things that we really are conscious of in our board is that this is a volunteer role. People have ebbs and flows in their lives. They have busy times. They have times we've got a bit more flexibility. So we're very respectful and understanding of that with our board. But I would think, you know, a good couple of hours a week would be a bit of an example that I would say that I would certainly put into my board. Yeah. But just be kind to each other in terms of the fact that it is a volunteer thing, and be conscious that people do have different commitments at different times in their life.
And that would be further along in their career that they would have an opportunity to volunteer for a board of that nature. So we would decide, and that's for those of you who decide to take on officer positions, that's where you'd have an opportunity to decide, what are we going to work on? How much time we're going to spend? So with that leads us to our next part of the presentation. We're going to say thank you to our speakers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
You're welcome to hang out for the next couple of minutes. We're going to talk about officer roles, and then we're going to do a drawing for an Amazon gift card, both in person and also on Zoom. So you're welcome to stay as well. And I know your schedule, your area, we appreciate the time that you took to speak and share your knowledge. There are so many things I learned tonight that I didn't know after reading through everything and learning myself. So thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about next steps. Now that you've learned all this about the IABC and what you could gain from it, starting as a student chapter. And I'll be honest with you, I wish I had something like this years and years ago when I was at Fairfield University, and then even in graduate school. I wish I had that, the connections and just the ability to reach out to someone and to ask questions and all of the learning opportunities. So we're going to talk about next steps for if you're looking to join the club, because we're going to make it what we want it to be. And that's where, as officers of the club and members of the club, we're going to, you know, if we want to work on, and that's why I mentioned, maybe we'll do some sort of communications plan. Maybe we'll work with a nonprofit that needs to redo their website. We need to decide as a club, and it will be up to you to decide. Okay. And we'll vote on it. So moving to next steps, the first thing we need to do is we have to be an official TTU organization. We have to have certain roles that we have to fill. And it's going to take a while for us to get official membership. For those of you who are part of other clubs, you know it takes a little while to get us up and running. But in order to do that, we have to elect certain officials. If we move to the next slide. We're working on it. The first role would be the president role, right? And what does the president do? The president first is going to be, and it will be, as we have here with the exclamation, the first IABC. How cool would that be to have on your resume? All of these positions, and you would all, as members, be able to put, by the way, you know, member of the first, you know, Texas Tech University chapter of the IABC. You can even say inaugural chapter. It just sounds better, doesn't it? Doesn't it sound sexy?
Always the PR woman.
Yeah. So what would you do? These are just taken specifically from Texas Tech's officer roles. But again, you're going to mold this role into what you see fit. Okay. And what would you do? You're going to supervise, oversee the work of the other officers. But a lot of times you're working as a team, and you're going to see this. And you can even see, as we were talking to our speakers today, that even no matter what your role is, you work together as a team. We'll have a goal for what we're going to do. So honestly, if you're worried about, oh, I don't know if I could be president, it's, you know, it'd be a big time commitment. We'll take on another role, and there'll be lots of other roles. And don't worry, we can work it out that we could have 2 presidents, we could have 2 vice presidents. We can work that out. Okay. So providing the overall vision, spokesperson, and we have a couple other things, but at the end of the day, you'd be doing a lot, but you wouldn't be alone. You would also, if we can just move to the next slide, you'll be scheduling. We'll talk all about this when we go to elect, and we'll probably talk about that next meeting. But the other position we have to have is treasurer. We all know money at the end of the day is what is going to drive and help us accomplish our goals. So treasurer is, I need someone that's detail oriented. Anybody really detail oriented? You don't have to be really good with math. It doesn't have to be perfect. Detail oriented, that's good. Oh, good. We love it. I love it. All right. So establishes and oversees the annual budget. We'll help you with that. I just did this. I came from Pace University. I had to do this to get my PR chapter up and running. I know what it takes. And I know what schools are looking for the budget. We have to show we're doing something worthy with the funding that we get, okay? And it is not easy, but we can do it. Reports regularly to the organization, manages day-to-day financial transactions, so even buying pizza. So again, it's really just detailed oriented. If you're good balancing your checkbook, you'll be good with this, okay? All right, so let's go to some of the other roles, and I mentioned vice president, and we can have 2 co-vice presidents. So I know the question will always be the time commitment. We can work it out so it's not infringing on your classes or your extracurricular activities. But the vice president is going to work closely and support the president, and it could be a co-president, but you will also oversee if we have committees, and we can have a social media committee, we could have an event committee. We'll figure it out what makes the most sense. And again, if the president's really busy with something, the vice president will step in and help out, okay? Secretary, that's another person we need detail oriented. Who's the best typist? I'm terrible. Okay. We need someone to take minutes for the meetings, and then to keep us on track. And one of the things I had with my previous club is our secretary would actually help us out with the agenda for each meeting based on the minutes from last meeting. And it would just kind of follow through, and it worked really, really well. But you would also handle all correspondence, and we would work that out because sometimes you need more than one person. It's a lot sometimes, depending on what we're doing. If we have membership, we'd have membership lists. And you would work very closely with the treasurer in terms of when we have our dues. That's a great role too, particularly to put on your resume. If it's something you don't like to be getting up in front of people, talking a lot, and you're very detail oriented. Additional roles, you could head up a committee. You put that on your resume, which means you're not taking on an officer role, but you can head up a specific committee. Some of you really like doing social media, right? We need help with that. You can see, and we'll take a look at our social media in a minute. I'll have you like, follow, and share. I talked about this in my classes this morning, but we can have social media. We can have someone help with membership. Where are my PR people in here? Couple PR people. Okay. So even if you're in marketing, promotion, even advertising, we need help with all those things. And those would be committees that we have here as well. And I have event planning. Where are my event planners here? Who likes to plan events? Got to be a couple. Yeah, see. Those are my detail-oriented people too. And we also have fellowship. So again, the connection, what we're going to be doing for outreach. Okay, I like to think of it. I always like to work with a nonprofit because I feel we have so much that we can give back. And I think that's something we could do as well. And you would be the first. I think that is so cool. I wish I had this opportunity. And not only that, but then you make these connections. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Dr. Bowden for a second to talk a little bit about dues and what the next steps are.
Okay, well, the next steps. So at this point, the dues annually would probably be $50 annually. And that might sound a little bit higher than you used to, but keep in mind that our professional memberships are well over $1,000. So this is really a benefit that you get international access. Some of the great things you will get for your dues. I feel like a salesperson and I'm online doing an infomercial, but wait, there's more. Some of the things that you will get as part of that I particularly have enjoyed is Iabc Advance. And that this is opportunities to do all sorts of learning that count for continuing education credits, not tech credits, but in different areas. Many of them are free. And so I'm looking into one right now, which is a communication package on diversity, equity, and inclusion, because my area of interest specifically is accessibility. That covers part of it. So I'm really interested in that. And this is 5 modules and it is free as part of the membership. So these are great values that you can do, but how can you join? And I have to kind of switch over a minute and put this link into chat. Now, we're not asking for a commitment right now, but if you would, please go to bit.ly/IABC-sign up. And I thank you for saying a little bit beyond time. That really means a lot. And by doing so, we can find out if you are interested in joining, if you are interested in serving in any of the positions or in different roles. I'll find out a little bit more. And it's also an opportunity to give feedback on this session, as well as any ideas or suggestions you would like to have for future meetings. How does that sound?
That sounds fantastic. Now, again, I know $50 is a lot. It's really not when you think of what the connections are, and you get in on the ground floor, so you get an opportunity to see and to build those connections even before you graduate. So then when you do graduate, and you are out in the working world, you'll definitely already have an idea of what membership is like and what the benefits are, and you'll already have those connections already. I really wish I had that. It took me a long time to network and to really understand the value of networking. And again, the world of professional, of communication professionals is much smaller, even though we are global, because there are so many skill sets and there are so many similarities that bring us together, even though we are so diverse. And that's where we are talking about this evening, and you'll hear us continue to talk about it. But again, I would love to create amazing work product with you, meaning we're going to take all of the things we learned through IABC, put it into practice as part of our chapter, and make a difference here locally, which would be so cool to put on our resumes, right? And not only that, but you get amazing recommendations from our co-lead, myself and my other co-leader here. In addition, we have a third co-leader, which you met quickly, Elena. So I urge you definitely to join. I'll try not to be too silly, doing my best here. So thank you guys again. And we thank our speakers and we thank our Waco watch party. So how are you guys doing? Thank you so much. We appreciate you joining this evening. So hope you got some pizza as well.
And don't leave yet. I know we went over time, but let's go to the fun part.
Now we get to do our
Fun
drawing.
part. And Jennifer is going to start with the drawing in here. If you provided your name. Round and around the cup goes, where it stops, nobody knows.
All right, I've got Braden and Matter. Braden, come on up, Braden.
Yay!
Yay. All right, so we have the hard copy gift card right here.
Use an actual Amazon gift card.
There you go, $25 Amazon gift card. And we're going to do an online one as well, which we're going to choose right now through a random number generator. We'll see how this
Yeah,
name
we're gonna see if I got this to work actually. And here we go.
So you'll be getting an email from me. with-
Catherine Wilson.
All right, so Catherine, you're
Catherine
going to
Wilson. Come on screen for a minute so that we can say how wonderful you are. Where did you go? Hello, Catherine.
Hi, Catherine.
Unmute yourself. You want to get card. We'll send you some information shortly, but if you, I will write that down and make sure we get you on there.
You'll get an email from me with the link to the Amazon gift card. Okay, so when you see that, it's not spam, it's actually coming from professional. Don't you always worry when you get those links, like, oh.
Yeah.
All right, so that was kind of cool. It worked. We're
Thanks
proud of
for
our-
your trust in me.
I'm impressed.
All right, our next meeting tentatively will be on November 3rd, kind of same day of the week, same time, maybe different room. And we hope that you'll be interested in coming again. Other than that, thank you so much for spending time with us tonight. And it did nothing. So thank you so much for coming tonight and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and all of those things.
And
And
Instagram.
We'll send
So
you
can you take a look right now and follow, like, and share? That would be fantastic. And if you want to come up and grab some more pizza, it's probably cold now, but hey, cold pizza is better than no pizza, right? So come on up and grab some. You can also have some soda. And thank you to our online friends. We appreciate you coming this evening. We look forward to hearing from you. And again, it was great seeing you all, and we appreciate you smiling and playing along with my say cheese. Thank you very much. So have a great evening, and we'll see you all soon. Bye.
Good night, everyone. Thank you. so much.
Were you guys able to take any photos? Oh, perfect. If you take a photo of the feeling, you take a picture of that, just so you don't have any done. Yeah, I did. You can take some pizza, absolutely. Grab some pizza. If you want to grab some pizza, you can take it out. That would be fantastic.
Big deal, and it was.
Take a picture?
It's like tickets.
Night, Natalie.
Yeah. When I was doing it, I'm like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Time being you working at the IABC, working on the IABC. Confusing on a resume. Maybe we should do that. Can we do like not full of hours?
Yeah.
So maybe like far away, like long shots. Yeah, that's good.
Pcom, we all just.
Yeah. Maybe try to do better. Which should we want to say, Dan?
I don't even know how to do it.
Did I do it right? Did I do it right? So, that was my second time doing it, so I'm proud of myself.
Thank you. I wanted to introduce myself to you. I came in late.
We'll see you Monday.
Nice to meet
I'm
you.
so happy Trish is in my class because it's the 9:30 when she talks.
I did not.
So I'm so happy.
Yeah, I'm very excited about
We're
this.
just
I'm
I mean, there's opportunities really we can do.